Welcome to the Unconscious Intelligence Experiential Training. And I'm looking forward to this class and this presentation, which is a 7-week deep dive into the processes of training, teaching, and developing unconscious intelligence. For those who I have not had the chance to meet before, I'm Dr. Richard Nongard, and I am looking forward to this presentation. And the reason why is because so often we've understood what the benefits of hypnosis, what the benefits of personal development, what the benefits of neurolinguistic training are for the clients that we're working with. But in our own lives, we feel that we're perhaps missing something because we feel a sense of stuckness. Think right now about the things in your life that you are currently struggling with. What are the issues, the emotions? What are the communication patterns, the relationship difficulties that you're currently experiencing in your life? Now think back. Chances are pretty good that whatever you identified as an issue for you today was the same issue 5 years ago. In some form, it was probably the same issue 10 years ago. It was probably the same issue even 20 years ago. And chances are pretty good whatever you're struggling with today are the same things that you struggled with in high school, in middle school, and maybe even as a small child. What's amazing about this realization is that we have a wealth of knowledge and information. All of us who are participating in this course in one level or another are counselors, therapists, professional hypnotists, or in the personal development or helping professions, helping other people to create transformation. We know the techniques and the strategies that help people to break through and experience success in life. And yet it's amazing how we often can identify that the same thing we struggle with then is the same thing we struggle with now. Why is that true? The answer is because the unconscious mind is infinitely powerful and is actually driving almost all of our human behaviors. Chances are pretty good wherever you're sitting right now, you happen to have a notepad or a piece of paper. It can be a scrap piece of paper, a pencil, a pen, a dry erase marker, but find some kind of a blank piece of paper laying around the desk, even if it's something like a business card. I happen to have an actual notepad with me and, of course, a dry erase marker with me. And what I'd like you to do on your piece of paper is imagine that this is the human mind. Imagine this paper represents the space of our human mind, our human consciousness. Now take your pen and draw a representation of how much space within the context of the human mind you believe the conscious mind occupies. What does that space look like? Take your pen, take your paper, and draw a representation of how much of that mind is actually the conscious mind. Perhaps you're like many people and you've simply drawn a small circle on one side representing the vast unconscious mind, or perhaps you recognize that the conscious mind is only a small dot in the total experience of the human mind. As we explore the ideas of the unconscious mind and unconscious intelligence, it's important to recognize that our untapped potential is something we have the ability to break through. You see, to this point in our human experience, most of psychology and hypnosis as well has believed that the unconscious mind was dumb. It was stupid. It simply controlled breathing, respiration, sexual functioning, hunger, feelings of hot or feelings of cold. The reality is, though, that we're now learning in psychology that the unconscious mind has the ability to learn as well, to learn, to change, to adapt, to become flexible, to grow. What this means is that the large untapped power of what we call the unconscious mind is something that we can actually impact and change. You see, the reason why you struggle then with what you continue to struggle with now is not because with the conscious mind you haven't made a decision to experience something different. Yes, your conscious mind on January 1st said, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Your conscious mind said on January 1st, I'm going to stop smoking. Your conscious mind said on January 1st, I'm going to quit using my credit cards. And yet by February 15th, you were no longer at the gym. You weren't losing any weight, and you had put some big purchases on the credit card. What causes that? What causes that is the unconscious experiences, which are the primary driver of our human experience. So almost every hypnotist I know knows the lemon drop convincer. It goes kind of like this. Go ahead and hold out your hand while you're watching this video. Go ahead, hold your hand out. And imagine I'm putting in some of those lemon head candies. You know, the kind of candies that old ladies used to have in a glass bowl in their living room. A sour tart lemon interior with confectionery sugar on the outside. Imagine I'm putting some of those into your hand. Go ahead, hold your hand up while you're watching the video. Imagine I've dropped some of those in your hand. Now go ahead and close your eyes down. Feel the weight of those imaginary candies. Take your other hand to pick up those imaginary candies and pop them into your mouth. When you pop them into your mouth, you'll notice the sweet taste of that confectionery sugar. And as it melts away, as it touches the saliva, you'll notice the sour and tart inside of that lemon head candy. Go ahead and put your hand down because I'm not going to be able to give you any more lemon head candy. And also go ahead and chomp that candy up, that sour, tart, lemon-flavored candy. Chomp, 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 chomp. Swallow the candy and open your eyes. Now, what was your experience there? Did you experience salivation when I suggested the sour, tart interior of that lemon candy? You see, there are no lemon candies here. I'm giving you an imaginary candy via video that, by the way, is an asynchronous experience. I did this a long time before you actually watched it. And yet with the simple suggestion of the lemon candy, you produced a real response. And if for some reason you're one of the few people that didn't salivate, did you taste the candy? Could you feel the weight of the candy? You see, in hypnosis, we've used this as a convincer to demonstrate the power of hypnosis. I gave you a suggestion, a verbal suggestion, an imaginary suggestion, but we produced a real response. This is why weight loss hypnosis works. When I do a hypnosis session, people don't actually melt away the pounds in the chair, but they respond to the suggestions that I've given them, and it produces a real physical response, and over time, they lose weight. With my pain control clients, the pain is real to them, and I've given them with my words a suggestion, and their mind takes action on that and creates a sense of comfort or a sense of relief in the places where they used to experience pain. And we say the reason why that works, this type of convincer or this type of hypnotic suggestion, is because the old brain, the amygdala, it's stupid, it's unintelligent. It can't tell the difference between fact and fantasy. But the reality is, the old brain, the amygdala, our unconscious mind, the experiences we have are actually infinitely intelligent. It was Milton Erickson who said, I wouldn't want a New York City taxi driver that was not in trance. I learned this. I remember when my son was only 15 years old and I was teaching him how to drive. And of course, I had been driving for years, but it was my turn to teach him how to drive, just like my stepfather had taught me how to drive a car. And I remember sitting in the passenger seat as he drove the first couple of times, and I was sitting on edge because I recognized he didn't know all of the actions that must simultaneously occur to operate and drive a car safely. Looking in the mirror in front while looking in the mirror in back, while accelerating at the right distance based on the car that's in front of us and the car that's behind us, the flow of traffic, all of these things. You see, our subconscious mind is actually infinite. Our unconscious mind is intelligent. And the research now shows that it can be trained, it can learn, and it can respond. What this means is that we have the ability to break the patterns that have held us back from success and to propel us into a new future. What this course is ultimately about is how to learn with the unconscious mind, how to apply knowledge unconsciously, and to drive behavior unconsciously so that we automatically step into a bright and rich future. When you apply these strategies in your own life first and discover the transformation that can be made, you'll with passion share these ideas with the clients who you work with. Let's turn our discussion to sensorial experience. We experience the world around us, and this is one of NLP's great contributions to our understanding from a sensorial perspective. It's through the sight, sound, touch, taste, and scent of the world around us that we absorb information and knowledge which becomes a part of our experience unconsciously. And it's at a later time in life that we have recollections. We call these anchors in hypnosis that produce certain responses. So the conscious mind might have made a decision, but the cue environmentally in our experience drives us in a direction other than that which we thought. And so the question, of course, is, can this pattern be impacted? Do we have the ability to create a parallel program between our conscious desires and our unconscious learnings? The answer to that is a resounding yes. And in this course, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But let's talk about how infinitely intelligent our sensorial experiences are. You see, the scent of smell, the human can smell over 10 trillion different things. That's an amazing thing. We think a bloodhound is so cool because it can actually follow a trail of a person sensing the scent of somebody that it's trailing or tracing. The reality is, if people weren't so lazy to not use their forearms as 2 extra feet, the human could be as powerful as a bloodhound as well, because our sense of smell is incredible. You see, it's a big myth that animals have superpowers that humans don't. The reality is, humans have superpowers. Even taste, the millions of taste buds that are on our tongue, dedicated to simply, some of them are dedicated to certain tastes and experiences, being able to determine a life-saving skill, whether something is fresh water or whether it's not. Our sense of hearing is incredible. We can hear at an amplitude of less than an atom. The human is capable of hearing anything from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's an amazing range. And our sense of vision, sight, how we see the world around us is absolutely incredible. Something that's amazing is that Navy pilots, Air Force pilots have actually been taught how to see stars in the daylight. The reason why this is important is because seeing an enemy plane from miles and miles away, a small speck in the distance, can make the difference between life and death. Learning to hone and practice the skill of being able to see stars in the daylight sky is a skill that has demonstrated efficacy. And what this means is that our sensorial experiences are infinite, and we have the ability to learn, to improve, and to use these experiences in numerous ways. But what's interesting to me is that in the field of hypnosis, coming from neuro-linguistic programming, we almost always talk about 3 primary representational systems: the visual representational system, the auditory representational system, or the kinesthetic representational system. What we see, what we hear, and what we feel. Sometimes, of course, in an NLP training, they'll also focus a little bit on the other 2 senses that we learned about in 2nd grade, the olfactory and the gustatory, our sense of taste, our sense of smell. And these are the 5 senses we learned about in 2nd grade. And these are the 3 senses that we focus on in hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. I don't know if you're familiar with the idea of Montessori school. Maria Montessori was an educator over 100 years ago, Italian physician. She educated children. There are Montessori schools all over the world. And it's interesting that even 100 years ago, Maria Montessori was talking not about the 5 senses that we learned about, but about the 9 senses. She determined, yes, these were the 5 senses that were important, but there's also baric, the weight of things. There's also thermal, the temperature of things. One of my favorite experiences or extra senses that we don't talk about too much is proprioception. Go ahead and take your finger. If you have a dry erase marker, make sure you don't leave a dot on your head here. And close your eyes down. With your eyes closed down, go ahead and bring that finger to your nose. This is the sense of proprioception, knowing where you are in relation to where you are at all times. Go ahead and open your eyes. We're amazed that a bat has this ability, but people have the same ability as well. And Maria Montessori talked about thermognostic sensorial perception, and then, of course, the tactile or the spatial experiences. So what we can see here is that the number of human senses that we have is infinitely larger than that which we've learned about. And what happens is we go about our day, and we've been doing this since the first day of life, and we'll go through to the very last day of life, experiencing the world through a multi-channel perspective, adding to our reservoir of knowledge and experience. And the human mind is trained to draw on our past experiences to project into the future. This, by the way, is why humans are at the top of the evolutionary food chain. It's not because we have thumbs. It's because we have the ability to scan the past, to predict the future, and to take action based on these things. But we do this unconsciously. We do that. How many times have you been driving a car and almost got in a collision, but you didn't? Why? Because the unconscious mind was driving the car. How many times have you had an intuition and you made the right choice or the right decision in a difficult place or a difficult time or a different situation, or you said the right word at the right time? It was the unconscious mind that drove that choice or that behavior based on our previous sensorial experiences, projecting into the future what the outcomes would be, and being in a moment's notice the ability to draw from that. Now here's how wise the unconscious mind is. Go ahead and close your eyes down one more time. And with your eyes closed down, think of the room where you lived when you were 6 years of age. What was that room like? What was the carpeting like? What was the wallpaper like? What was the ceiling molding like? What was the furniture or the color scheme in that room when you were 6 years of age? Now subtract however old you are minus 6. I'll be 58 next month, so I'm going to call it 52 years ago since I last was in that room. And yet, instantly, my subconscious, my unconscious mind can bring that to my conscious experience in this moment. It's amazing how quick and how fast and how amazing the machine of our mind truly is. We know that there are millions of stars, by the way, probably millions of planets in the Milky Way galaxy. What's amazing is, according to Michio Kaku, who's a theoretical physicist, is that we have as many neural connections in our brain as 10,000 Milky Way galaxies have stars. Michio Kaku gives us actually an analogy for understanding the true computational power of the human mind. He says that if the human mind were a computer, it would have to be one city block in size. It would have to be cooled, because a computer is cooled by either small fans if you have a cheap computer, or water if you have a good gaming computers, by a water system the size of a powerful river. And he also tells us that in order to power this computer, we would need the power produced by a nuclear energy plant. But what's amazing is the human mind is powered by less than 20 watts of electricity. The human mind is incredible, and the vast majority of our human experience is an unconscious experience. And so the question is, can this be impacted? Can we learn? Can we retrain? Can we make changes? And can we, even when we don't have an awareness of the things that are behind the choices we've made, choose to step into an abundant, new, and prosperous future? The answer to that is yes. We are, in fact, soft tissue technology. And a lot of people are worried about artificial intelligence and robots taking over the world. Let me assure you that robots are no match for the human potential and human power. No machine is ever going to be able to match the unconscious reservoir of knowledge, learning, and experiences we have. Again, taking a look at our sensorial perspectives, sensorial experiences, the eyes take in 36,000 pieces of information every hour. The human eye can differentiate 10 million different colors. Do you know that in one human eye, there are over 2 million working parts? Just in one human eye, that's 4 million on both sides of your head. You see, the reality is that as this information is coming in on an unconscious level, day in and day out, it's creating the experiences we have that create the reality that we live. Robert Sapolsky is a cognitive neuroscientist at Stanford University. He is a primate and a human researcher, has been for the last 40 years. He's written on numerous subjects ranging from depression to primates to cognitive psychology, behavioralism, and he's got a very controversial new book out, which is called Determined. And he says that after 40 years of research, he's determined that there is no such thing as free will. that the forces of our unconscious experiences, both psychological, experiential, and biological, drive us to a point where the behaviors that we engage in on a daily basis are behaviors that were preceded by behaviors, which were preceded by behaviors, which were preceded by behaviors on a foundation of our human biology, which means the idea of free will really doesn't exist. I like to view it or say it this way. The conscious mind can make any choice it wants to. It does drive behavior. It does identify what it wants. It does identify what it needs. But the reality is our unconscious mind is what decides what the conscious mind truly wants or needs. This is why the idea of unconscious intelligence is important. When we take a look at a behavioral perspective, the ideas of B.F. Skinner or the ideas of Robert Sapolsky that say there is no such thing as free will, it can become fatalistic. But I believe, you see, the transformation can take place at the deepest levels. And the mechanism that allows us to break some of these patterns in a meaningful way for our human experience are the mechanisms of impacting unconscious intelligence. Now, is this possible? Fortunately, another researcher named Killstrom has come along and given us 4 ways that the human experience can be transformed from an unconscious intelligence perspective. He tells us that automatic processes can be developed and automatic processes can be broken. Our behavior, as well as our environment, as well as our biology, might determine the automatic processes, but we have an ability to impact, if you will, to reprogram the automatic processes. This is what an athlete does when they benefit from professional hypnosis. I worked with an athlete who actually had hit a foul ball and caused a very serious injury while playing Major League Baseball. He had been busted down to the minor leagues because every time he stepped up to bat, he had in his unconscious experience the previous experience of causing that injury, which caused his unconscious. You see, an athlete needs to be in the zone. They need to be a top athlete, hits the golf ball, hits the baseball, dunks the basketball naturally and effortlessly and easily because it's an unconscious process. They've committed to an automatic behavior. And so he had been busted down to the minor leagues because his automatic processes had been broken. He wasn't performing to that level and needed to recreate a new set of automatic processes because the old ones no longer worked for him. Killstrom says that subliminal perception can be developed. This is like the pilot who learns how to see daytime stars, or like the super sensors who become experts at determining human scent. There are people out there who can smell disease long before a person is diagnosed. Subliminal perception can be developed through practice, through dedication, through learning, through association with new experiences, and that this is a powerful way to transform unconscious intelligence. Killstrom also tells us that implicit memory can be impacted and change unconscious intelligence. But the most remarkable things about Killstrom's research is he tells us hypnosis is the 4th pathway to developing our unconscious intelligence. And that is, to a large extent, what this course is going to be focusing on, the hypnotic skills that we can use within the context of these other 3 areas, automatic processes, subliminal perception, and implicit memory, to create and make lasting change. You see, unlike Skinner or unlike Sapolsky, who believes that the life experience we have is predetermined, I believe that all of these things brought us to where we are today. When we develop our unconscious intelligence, we have the ability to decide where we're going to go from here and how we're going to get there into the future. If you've been struggling with problems that you've been trying to change, this course is all about the techniques and strategies that you'll be able to apply first in your own life and then to your clients' experiences. To accomplish these 4 things that Killstrom says can help us develop our unconscious intelligence, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 mechanisms to do so using an acronym RISE UP, RISEUP. This stands for reframe your passions. This stands for innovate your personality. This stands for stretching our empathy and our connection to other people, exploring self-knowledge, whether that's biological, whether that's psychological, whether that's even on a spiritual level, and understanding unconsciousness so that we can propel ourselves from here into the future. What are 3 strategies right off the bat in this very first session for us to do? Let's take a moment and take our 2 hands and simply cross them left and right, just like this, and begin tapping left and right, just like this. What we've done is we've created a state of bilateral stimulation. We physically crossed the left over right, the right over left, the left side of the brain, the right side of our brain, the logical, the analytical part. And we've created a unifying behavior here, just with this simple, basic bilateral stimulation process. And anything ranging from affirmations to new learnings that we can develop in a state of integrating both hemispheres of the brain can go a long way in helping us to tap into our unconscious intelligence. What are some other strategies that we can actually use? One of those strategies is to start living in the present moment and to set intentions rather than goals. You see, I've long taught that goal setting is often a pathway to mediocrity. Go to any training and they're going to tell you a goal is SMART. It's specific, measurable, attainable, has a reasonable time frame, blah, 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 blah. The reality is goal setting isn't that smart. Intention setting is, because what it does is it allows us in the present moment to take action on the previous experiences so that we can determine the future. See, for so many people, they've struggled with making change because they've set a goal for the future, but the future isn't here. The only moment we have is this moment. And so mindful living becomes a part of intentional living, which can drive change in the unconscious intelligence that we have. The third strategy, of course, is hypnosis. And the easiest way to teach hypnosis is to actually experience hypnosis. So before we conclude this video, close your eyes down for just a moment. Pay attention to the chair below you, the air in the room around you. Scan your body, release any places where you're holding obvious tension, or even the excitement about the new learnings that you've already encountered in this course. And with each breath marking each moment, allow yourself to be fully present in this experience. With each number and each breath becoming more absorbed into this moment and this experience. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. In this resource state we call hypnosis, recognizing that new beliefs can be created, new experiences can be experienced, and new actions can be the outcome of the growth that we have, not only with the conscious choices we make, but with the unconscious experiences we have as well. And so allow yourself in this time and place to commit to the next 7 weeks of learning, to engaging in the experiences, to working through the workbook that I've provided, to sharing with other people in our course, to develop a new set of strategies to drive and create lasting change. And with the next breath, just breathe in, let a smile come on your face, knowing that 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, those things that you struggled with before this course, at that point, you'll look back and see are things that you no longer struggle with today. And so let a smile come on your face. Taking a breath. I'm going to count to 3. Open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Opening the eyes, feeling fantastic, and ready for all of the rest of the experiential learnings that are coming in the next 7 weeks of this training course.